Okay. So, excuse me, Kyla, please be quiet. I'm sorry, I've got my dog in the background pontificating here. All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is our Salesforce Saturday for our Honolulu Nonprofit Users Group. And today we are very lucky to have Terry Miller, who is based in Des Moines, Iowa. And I actually got to see Terry. I crashed one of their Iowa users groups, their virtual users group, and he did this fabulous presentation on side-by-side comparison with the Flow Process Builder and how that maps over to Flow. With the Process Builder and how that maps over to Flow. And I thought, wow, we've got to get him to speak at our users group. So here, I'm letting one more person in. So let me tell you a little bit about Terry. He's the content creator behind Terry's Tidbits. He has a wonderful YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked it out, please go there. And he's the founder of Home Team Consulting. He left a successful enterprise 15 years ago in a leadership role to start a new journey with Salesforce and has never looked back. He's very passionate about the Salesforce family of products. He holds 15 certifications on the platform. He's a Salesforce MVP, mentor, leader of the Des Moines Trailhead User Group, blogger, vlogger, trainer, college curriculum creator, and instructor. And my goodness, when do you sleep, Terry?
I don't very often.
We're very, very, very fortunate to have Terry speak with us. And so, Terry, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you even get into Salesforce? What's your journey before you start into your Flow thing?
Yeah, so I'll kind of say a little bit more about me. I'm not used to people giving a full introduction like that. That's awesome. But my journey started, I was in corporate America. I did a lot of leadership type things in corporate America. I led the IT group, and a division within the company that I was at that transitioned to actually leading the entire division from a VP type level. Once that VP stuff was done, my CEO came and said, "Hey, Terry, we'd like you to consolidate all of our IT departments within our company." And we had 5 of them at the time. And so my task was to bring all 5 of those IT groups into one central IT. So there's a lot of politics and things that was at play there. And then I was at that point responsible for all of our enterprise applications in the company. It was about maybe 1,000 or so people, I think, is about the size of the group. And one of the VPs came and stopped in my office and said, "Hey, Terry, we bought Salesforce and we need you to implement it for us." And that was my introduction to Salesforce. So that was about 16 years ago. And at that point, it was kind of a new concept for us because we were a very much a custom build shop. And I started seeing some of the power and things that we could do with just point and click technology that Salesforce brought to the table. And keep in mind, that was 16 years ago. The technology's changed even significantly more since then. But it was fascinating to me, and through a variety of different things that occurred, I ended up going out on my own. And so I've been an independent consultant for 15 years now. And I started my practice really more from a strategic development consultancy. So I was helping businesses really manage their mission, their strategy, that sort of thing. And one of my companies, one of my clients said, "Hey, we need a sales tool to help us manage that side of the business." So I recommended Salesforce since I knew a little bit about it. I didn't know enough that I felt like I could implement it for them. So we hired a partner to come in and implement it. And that partner said to me, "Hey, Terry, have you ever thought about getting certified in Salesforce? If you would, we'll leverage you as a subcontractor for us." And I thought about that, and I thought, "Oh, that sounds kind of interesting," because I like technology. And so I thought, why not? So I went and got certified. And sure enough, they leveraged me as a consultant, it really kind of transformed my business model. I thought I was going to go down that management strategy type path, but Salesforce kind of took over, and that's kind of how it started for me. And so now I do 100% Salesforce work, and and almost every engagement, there's a level of strategy, there's a level of business knowledge, education type things that we have to do. So all of my corporate executive level stuff that I was involved in before, it still comes into play. It's just a different level. The thing I think that I missed the most from corporate America was just being able to mentor staff. I love that aspect of my job, to be able to go in and help staff members grow their career and all of that. And so that's why I do so much mentoring today, is because it kind of still gives me that ability to connect with people on a more personal level and help them in their journey. So that's that part of what I do. I tell people, if I could do this type of thing and mentor people full time, I would absolutely do it. But you can't make a good paycheck doing this stuff for free. So you still have to have a job. But I just love doing that. I love plugging into other people. It's just fun. So that's a little bit about my history anyway. And you brought me here today, though, primarily to talk about flow. And so we are going to talk about flow. But before we do that, I would like to have a little bit of fun with you if we can. So if you can find a piece of paper and a pen or pencil. If you're like me, you might have to go search around to find paper, because I don't keep much of it on my desk. But find a piece of paper and a pencil. And if you've got a camera that you're willing to turn on, I would love to see your faces. It just makes it easy to be able to look at people and connect with you, even if it's virtual. It's nice to be able to see you. So if you can do that, that would be fantastic. It's okay if you don't. So hopefully, while you're grabbing your pen and paper, let me just share a little bit about me. I'm going to go through this pretty fast because you've already seen that introduction. Let me share my screen with you. And hopefully you see my screen now. So as I said, independent consultant, work for Home Team Consulting. I am a Salesforce MVP. Just knew this last year. Was crazy excited when I saw that email come through. That was a big surprise and an honor. I do hold 15 certifications on the platform. That puts me at a system admin, as well as, application architect and system architect. Lead the Des Moines user group. We welcome everybody. So if you want to participate in our user groups, we love having people from outside the area come in and be a part of our group. A lot of people know me from the study groups that I've led. I've led quite a few admin certification study groups and platform app builder study groups. All of those videos are out there on my website. I literally hear from people around the world that say, "Hey man, I watched your videos and I got certified." And it's like, yes, I mean, that's like my favorite messages to hear in the world. It's like, to get comments like that and know that you're having an impact on others. Again, that's just what I love. Done a lot of work with our local community college, mostly to try to get some Salesforce curriculum taught, help with getting talent in the Des Moines area, some awareness of the product. And so that's been a lot of fun to work with them. Trainer, blogger, all of that sort of thing is all available, things that I do as well. Kind of my funnest one on here, just a little bit, is I have been known to talk to stuffed animals. You'll see a video or two out there on my YouTube channel if you want to hunt around and find a little bit about that. But enough about me. What I'd like to do is actually do a project with you, and we're going to have 90 seconds to do this project. And if you've got your pen and your paper with you, what our project is going to be today is we're going to draw a house. Now, you don't need to worry about being an expert drawer. We're not going to judge-free zone. And if you see what I would draw, you'd know why it's judge-free. But I'm going to start the timer, and then I want you to draw a house for me. Go ahead and start drawing. Again, you don't have to be an expert drawer. Just do the best house, whatever design you like. maybe it's your dream house. I don't know. But go ahead and draw a house. Now, I'm sorry, I need you to stop for just a minute. I've kind of changed my mind, and well, I'm sorry to do this. I know we're halfway through our project, and time is short a little bit here now, but we don't really have time to start over. But I need you to adjust your drawing if you could, because I need it. I need your house to be able to, well, it really needs to be a boat. So if you can, just adjust your drawing. We've got half of our time still available. Turn that drawing. Don't turn your paper. Just work with what you got. Make that into a boat for me. Oh, look at that. We've seen one of them on the screen already. Very nice. You need to make that thing a boat. See what we can do. And one more interruption. I'm sorry again, but this time it's not my fault. You know those people that live up there on the top floor in those big offices, they told me that they need to make another adjustment to our project, and they want our project to be able to navigate on land. So if you can make some last minute adjustments so that it can navigate on land, they sign our paycheck, so we kind of got to do what they want us to do. So make that adjustment if you would to your drawing. And just 5 seconds left here. 5, 4, 3, and our deadline is now. So put your paper down and your pen, and I'd love to see your drawing. If you're on camera and are willing, just kind of put it up there up where you can see it. That would be awesome. Very nice. Good. Good. I love those of you with virtual backgrounds. They kind of fade in and out. It's awesome. Here's what mine look like. I'll put it up on the screen. I think it looks a little bit more like a banana boat car than it does anything else, but that's what my drawing kind of looked like when I did it. A lot of times when we're doing projects, they kind of fall into that format where things are going along really well and life is good, and all of a sudden something happens and we're forced to make some last minute changes to our project, and it can sometimes feel a little bit uncomfortable as we do that. Now, I don't want to go too far with this, but sometimes Salesforce does this same thing to us. In fact, they do it 3 times every year. But the one I want to kind of focus in on here today is this thought about, I don't know, maybe it's been 3 years now. It was pre-COVID, and it was at whatever the last Dreamforce pre-COVID was. I volunteered to work in the Admin Meadows. And if you've never been to Dreamforce, Admin Meadows is kind of this really large conference area, and they've got kiosks that are set up to where you can go and just learn about a specific technology. And I happened to be assigned to the automation booth or the kiosk there. And so I had all of these people coming up asking questions about Salesforce's automation tools. And at that time, it primarily with the focus was on flow. Now, my cohort, there's supposed to be 2 of us at the booth. He or she, I don't know which, didn't show up. And so I was there trying to answer all of these questions by myself. And then this lovely lady came up. She said, "Hey, I'm from Salesforce. Would you like a little bit of help at your booth?" Well, her little bit of help actually turned out to be a little bit more like she took over. I kind of moved the mouse around a little bit to look like I still belonged. Her name was Shannon Hell. And I didn't know Shannon. I didn't recognize her because I wasn't in that crowd at the time. But Shannon was the flow or automation project owner at Salesforce. So she was kind of like the big cheese when it comes to flow. And so she was there and kind of, like I said, kind of took over. I just stood around and looked pretty, I guess. But she said a couple things there that I found really fascinating. And one of those things that she said to us, she said, you know, that email that you get when your process builder, when it crashes and you get that big long email and it's kind of cryptic and you really don't know exactly what to do with that email. Shannon said this, we can't fix that. What we really need people to do, she said, what we really need people to do is to start using flow. And I kind of took a step back and thought, oh crap. All of my users back in Des Moines, they tell me, well, flow is hard. Flow is intimidating. I get into that big wide open space and I don't know what to do there, Terry. Well, that kind of got me thinking. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to do something now to help my team learn how to use flow. And so that's where this concept came from, this idea of how do we transition from process builder to lightning flow. And this is an entire series. You're going to get a little bit of it today, but this series is out on my website, terrystidbits.com. You can go out and find anything that you need to know about this series. And it's all written out in detail for you in blog posts. There's also cheat sheets that you can download if you are into kind of being able to see something on paper. And then there's videos that walk you through all of the different concepts. So keep that in mind. If this is something that helps you, that's available for you. So let's actually jump in and we're going to actually begin to work through this. And what I would like to kind of start with is just by simply saying, I do love these to be interactive. So if you have questions, if I confuse you at any point throughout this, please throw a message in the chat. I do have that up. I will try to watch that. Ruby, if you can kind of help watch that chat for me as well, that would be awesome. And then we'll have time to ask questions too at the end. So wherever it feels natural for you, feel free to interact and walk along this story with me. So in the example that we're going to use today, I have an account record that you should see on your screen now. And we have a process builder that is doing a variety of different things on this account when we save the record. One of those things that it does, and I need to reset it here, so give me just one moment. I just realized that I have it set wrong. One of those things is the CSAT satisfaction rating. When this satisfaction changes to unsatisfied, then we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to modify the priority. We're going to make it a high priority customer. We're going to create a chatter post. We have chatter sitting back here, and we're going to email the owner of the case of this record that, hey, we've got a problem here. They are not happy. So we've got 3 automations that are happening in Process Builder. I'll show you those in a moment. We also have these nice little checkboxes here that says, hey, if my address changes, I want you to update all of my contacts so that the address matches with what we have on the account. We have the same thing happening here with the shipping address. If shipping is the same as billing, we could update that as well. So we're going to, with this particular automation, we're going to rebuild this using Flow, and you'll be able to see how that works. So let's first make sure it does what it's supposed to do with Process Builder. I'm going to change this status to unsatisfied, and I'm going to save that record. All goes well. We have now a high priority case right there. And in Chatter, we have also got our chatter post there. And I bet if I contact my user group co-leader, she probably just got an email that said, hey, this record is now a high priority customer. Now, so that's the one scenario. The other one here is I noticed that I fat fingered the address for the Four Seasons Resort there in Hawaii. And by the way, Ruby, one little beef I have here is you didn't invite me to come on site. I think this would have been really nice to be able to come visit you guys actually in Hawaii. I would have loved that. But this address is, I fat fingered it. So I need to make a quick adjustment to it. I'm going to say, I want it to update all of my contact addresses along with it. And if just before I do that, I'm going to show you that hopefully my contact addresses are also all wrong. You can see that it's 10,011 is the address, and it really should not have that extra one in it. So that we're going to get rid of that extra one, and we're going to say update all my contact addresses. I'm going to hit save. Let's confirm that it did actually make that adjustment, and you can see that the address did change. And I put Ruby in here as you're an important person at this hotel, Ruby. You've been promoted if you didn't know. You're like the VP of Salesforce for the Four Seasons Hotel, and you can see the address did update there as well on her record. Okay, let's see what that looked like in Process Builder. And we're going to see a variety of other things happening here in Process Builder, but you can see that we've got the account object here, and we've got a manager one, we've got revenue, shipping the same as billing. There's the CStat one that we were mentioning that we adjusted. And then it's got some immediate actions there where it adjusts that customer priority, sets it to high. If I click on show more, there's the chatter post. And while I'm here, I'm going to just copy that into my clipboard so I have it. And then there's the email, account unsatisfied manager email alert that goes out when that CStat rating switches to unsatisfied. If I go down, here's the update addresses. And that one is update addresses, update update all of my contacts. So if the update all contacts checkbox equals true, then it's going to come over here and update those mailing addresses for me on the contacts associated to the account. And then it comes back, the second action, it'll come back and just uncheck that checkbox for us. Everybody good with that? You following what it's doing? And again, there's some other things here that happen, but those are the two that we're going to focus on. So let's start first with that C status rating. We're going to rebuild this using Flow. So I'm going to come over to Flow. I'm going to leave that one, and I'm going to come and just do a new Flow. Now, if you are moving from Process Builder to Lightning Flow, you will always use a record trigger flow. So if you're in that process of trying to move all of your old process builders, it's always going to be a record trigger flow. If you need to build something new, and it's something that you would kind of in your head think, well, shoot, I could do this in Process Builder, then it most likely is going to be that you're going to create a record trigger flow. If you're brand new to Flow, I recommend that you always start by learning record trigger flows first. Record trigger flows, in my opinion, is the easiest of all of the flows to learn. So start here. It's kind of that lower hanging fruit kind of concept. Start with this one. I think you'll find it a little bit easier. There's nothing wrong with doing screen flows. Nothing wrong with schedule triggers or platform events, auto launch flows, nothing wrong with them. It's just that this is a little bit easier, I think, to learn if you're brand new. So we're going to choose record trigger flow, and we're going to say create. Now, the first thing the flow is going to do for us is it's going to say, well, what object do you want to use or are we working with? And Process Builder did the same thing. Process Builder had the little blue box at the very top, and we had to choose our account. And that's what's happening when we come over here to flow. The first thing it's going to do is say, what object are we working with? And in this case, it's simply the account. I'm going to start typing into that field the object name, and it's kind of narrows down or filters down my list for me. And I'm just going to select the account object. The next thing there is to when do we want to trigger this particular flow? This section is an exact, not exact, I guess I shouldn't say that. It's the same as what we have here with the start the process when the record is created or edited, or when it is created. Flow, you're going to find in flow always takes things one step or two steps, sometimes 20 steps further than what Process Builder did. And they did that in this particular case as well. We have the option now of being able to run it when it's created. That was the same as what we had in Process Builder. When a record is created or updated, that's the same as Process Builder, but they included these two new ones where it's when the record is updated, or we can even delete records now, which I mean, you got to be kind of careful about that one. But you have the ability now with Flow to be able to actually delete a record. Now, in this use case, this is running when the record is created or edited. And so I'm going to just match that to when the record is created and edited on my flow. That makes sense? Now, there's this other new concept here called entry criteria. And this one's been there's been a lot of debate around the concept of, well, do you do one flow for every process, or is it, or for every object, kind of like what we were taught to do with Process Builder, where it's one Process Builder per object? Do you do the same thing in Flow, or do you create multiple ones? For the sake of this demo and to keep it simple, to keep it similar to the way we would do things with Process Builder, I'm going to just recommend that we use one flow for the object. Now, in practical reality, I would suggest to you, and we can talk more about this in detail at the end, but the reality in my mind is you probably should use separate flows for each individual process. When Flow was a little bit younger, we didn't have the ability to control the order in which our flows would run. We now have that capability. And so there's a lot of, in my mind, when I put my architect hat on, there's a lot of advantages that I see by using entry criteria to prevent my flow from even running if it doesn't qualify. So keep that in the back of your mind. We can dive into that a little bit deeper later. But for our case, we're simply going to leave our entry criteria as none. And then we get to our next new concept. And this one is fast field updates or actions and related records. Now, Salesforce, in my mind, did a really good job of explaining what fast field updates are and their definition, but I don't think they did as good a job with the actions and related records. So I'm going to give it a shot. So here's Terry's definition of these. Fast field updates, use a fast field update anytime you need to update a field on the object that triggered your flow. Anything else, you're going to use actions and related records. So let me say that again. Fast field updates, and this is almost always true. If you need to update a field on the object that triggered the flow, fast field updates. Anything else, actions and related records. So let me give you a quiz. Throw this in your chat window if you can. If you needed to update a field on the object that triggered the flow, would you use a fast field update or an actions and related records? Put that in the chat. Fast field updates. Good. What if you wanted to say, send an email? Would that be a fast field update or an actions and related records? Awesome. Look at that. You guys are so smart. I'm not sure why you showed up for this entry level class. You're doing fantastic.
There-
What if, let me throw this curveball at you. What if you wanted to update a field on the object that triggered the flow? Fast field update or actions and related records? All right, good, good. I think some of you maybe were thinking it's like, whoa, didn't he just say that one more time? Did he change something in that? He didn't. What if you wanted to say create a chatter post? Would that be an fast field update or an actions and related records? Yeah, very good. Actions and related records. So here's what's happening. Now, if you're not familiar with this concept called order of execution, I have a blog post that kind of breaks this down for you as well. So order of execution is what happens when you push that save button in Salesforce. There's a variety of things that occur before the record actually is saved to the database. And then there's a lot of things that happen after the record is saved. And then once all of those things occur, that entire transaction then is committed. So order of execution, when you first hit the save button, it's going to do a lot of some of your system validation rules, and then your record triggered flows before run, your Apex before triggers run, your system and user validation rules run, and then your duplicate rules run. The record gets saved. Now, the reason it's called a fast field update is because it runs up here in this record trigger before model. So we're modifying the value of that field before we ever write it to the database. So it's all happening real time in memory, and then it gets written to our database. After it does that, we have the Apex after triggers. We have assignment rules, workflow rules. Remember our old workflow rules? We loved workflow rules. And then process builder. This is where process builder would run. Your escalation rules, and then your workflow triggered flows, your after side. Now, after this is your actions and related records. So actions and related records almost happen, but just before the entire transaction is committed. So that's why we have now the option of being able to do some of this before the record is saved. So it's super, super fast. And then for all of the other things that we need to do, we can push those back toward the end of the process. Now, on the right-hand side of this chart where we have all of those after items, because let's say we were saving a new record. If I'm saving a new record on my before side, I don't have a record ID yet. I don't get a record ID until it saves it to the database, and the database then gives me an ID for that record. And then I can leverage the ID back here on my after. So that's a little side note freebie for you, if that made any sense to you. So there's some good reasons to use before. There's some good reasons to have to use the after as well. That's order of execution. All right, so
I have a question.
let's go back to our record and our use case. And we're going to first take a look now that we've got our flow kind of established. We know that we're doing, we have to decide if we're doing a before or an after flow here. And if we look at this unsatisfied concept here, if I want to update the customer priority whenever the CSAT rating switches to unsatisfied, here's your next quiz. Do you do that in the fast field updates or the actions and related? Look at that, all of you, fast field updates. So the question there I saw, Ruby, from you was, do you have an example of when to use our use case for the fast field update? That's our use case right there. I want to, whenever my CSAT rating goes to unsatisfied, I want to update the field on the same record. I want to update that to a high priority. So let's go ahead then. Now we know that we need to do a fast field update. So if I go back to my flow builder, I'm going to choose fast field update, and I'm going to say done. And what I've now completed is I've completed this start element. Now you might be saying, well, what's an element, Terry? An element is simply something that does work for you. So we've got a variety of different elements. If I click on the little plus sign, all of these items in that box, those are considered elements. It's stuff that does things for us. So we have our start element now defined. It is going to run on the account object. It's going to be a fast field update, and it's triggered anytime the record is created or updated, just like what we had in Process Builder. Okay. Everybody good? You following along there? All right. Okay, so that piece is now defined. So let's go back down to our CSTAT rating, our true false diamond. Here we have to evaluate the record and decide, okay, is this CSTAT rating, did it switch to unsatisfied? So I'm going to go back over here to Process Builder. I'm sorry, to Flow. I'm going to click on that plus sign. And I'm looking through this list and I'm thinking, well, in Process Builder, it was a blue diamond type shape. I have a diamond type shape here, and decision does kind of sound like what I would want it to do. It makes a decision to go one way or another way. So you'd be right if that's what you're thinking. The only difference is they changed the color. I don't know why they changed the color, but it's now orange. But it's the same concept as what you have in Process Builder with your true false criteria. Now that criteria is account CSTAT rating field equals pick list value unsatisfied. So let's go back over to Flow. Now, one of the things that you have to do in Flow, and you had to do this in Process Builder too, it just, you might not have recognized it in Process Builder. You had to give it a name. In this case, I called it CSTAT rating when unsatisfied. So let's just do that same thing over here. Now I have a naming convention I use in my flows. And so if it's a decision, I will always preface it with DESC. I do have a blog post on that too. You can go out and, if you're curious about my naming convention, you can go out and look at that too. So I'm just simply going to call this CSTAT rating, since that's what we're looking at. And that gives it its name. Now the criteria for the CSTAT rating, the true false decision point, is handled down here at the bottom of the screen. So I know that if it's unsatisfied, I need to go a certain direction. I need to do something with it. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to give it a label of unsatisfied. Now, if you're comparing this to Process Builder, this would be the true path in Process Builder. Process Builder only had true and false, and so you didn't have to give it a label. In Flow, you have to give it a label because we can have actually multiple paths in a decision in Flow. So that's really, really cool. I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later, but all we need to know is it unsatisfied? Now I come down to where I can put my criteria in, and I click into the field and I'm looking through that and I don't see any of my fields. I don't see CSTAT rating. I just see all of these other things with dollar signs on the front of them. And here's what I want you to remember. I want you to remember this field right here, this one called dollar record. I know I can't hear you, but just kind of in your head, at least say dollar record is my friend. Dollar record is my friend. Dollar record is your friend because it represents the record that triggered your flow. You can see right underneath there that it does say account. That is our object that it is representing. And if I click into dollar record, then I will see all of the fields that are on that object. So that's a key piece to make sure you understand dollar record. It is your friend. And if I scroll down there, there is my CSTAT rating. I'm going to select that field, and I want the operator to be equals, and the value then would be when it's unsatisfied. Now I have the ability to set well, what if it's not unsatisfied? We call that default outcome. That's everything else that doesn't fit that criteria. And you can leave it as default outcome. I like skip better. I don't know. It's just me. So I'll just relabel it to skip. And then I'm going to go ahead and press done. And what I really, really like about Flow is that it actually visually shows me some of this. So now I have an unsatisfied path, and then I have a path that just skips it. So there is now my criteria piece of this. So the next thing I need to do then is update that customer priority to high. Now this would simply had a name here called customer priority. And so let's go back into our process builder, and this is when unsatisfied is true. So I'm going to go down the unsatisfied path. I'm going to click on that plus sign, and I'm simply looking for how can I update that other field on my object. And they did a neat job here for us of just saying, well, update the triggering record. Let's update the triggering record. So we're going to simply select that as an option, and we're going to give it a label. And let's see what field I forgot now. Priority. Customer priority was going to change. And so this is a update customer priority. Apologize for my misspellings. And now I have some additional options here. I've got use the record that triggered the flow. And you'll notice that because I chose this one, I can't even click on these others. It's the only option I have in my fast field update. I can only update the record that triggered the flow. So Salesforce has given us a little bit of guidance here, preventing us from doing something that we don't want to do. It's already selected for us. It's going to update the record that triggered the flow. And here is the condition. We've got the ability to throw a condition on here if we want to. Let's see, did we have any conditions on the over here in flow? We really didn't. All we did was we were updating all the records, and we just simply set that priority then to high. So let's go ahead and do that. I click into the field. I'm looking for priority. Again, I can start typing and it filters my list. I can select customer priority and then set its value to high. When I'm finished, simply say done. And you'll notice now that I've got that piece built out over on my flow. It was that simple to do a record update. Now, my next one here is the chatter post. Now, chatter post, is that going to be in a before, or is that going to, or sorry, I'll use Salesforce's new terms. I still struggle a little bit with that. They didn't used to call them fast field updates. They used to call them before record trigger flow and after record trigger flow. In my head, that's still the way I think about them. So fast field update, is it a fast field update, or will it be a relate actions and related? Yeah, very good. So let's go back over to flow. Now, because it's a different type of flow, I'm going to have to create a new flow. So I'm going to do new flow again. It is going to be a record trigger flow. I'm going to say create. The object again is going to be the account object. It's going to be when it's created and updated, no entry criteria, and it's actions and related records this time. I'm going to click done. There's my new start element, all predefined for me. And now I need to repeat the process of making a decision, because I'm in a different flow now. That decision that we created that said, hey, they switched things to unsatisfied, that doesn't exist in this flow. So that's going to be my first thing I need to do. I need to go back and do another decision. Let's see, CStat rating. This is unsatisfied. Dollar record, my friend. Dollar record is in my after as well. And I need the CStat rating equals unsatisfied. Okay, so that creates that one there now for me. So now I've got my unsatisfied path. I need to create, what did we say, a chatter post. So we're going to create a chatter post now. Make sure I stay in the after one. Unsatisfied, or click on the add elements. Let me slide that up a little bit. And I'm looking in here to see, okay, is there a chatter post anywhere? And I scroll through the list. I notice the list is a lot longer over here in an after. It's not as little as it was on the before side. but I don't see chatter post here. So here's the secret for you. If you don't see what you're looking for, take a look in the actions. So if it's not where you think it should be, look at actions. And the cool thing about an action is that it has this search up here at the top. And with that search, we can simply type in something like chatter. And look at that, chatter post or post to chatter shows up. They hid this one for us. It's underneath that actions. We're going to simply select the post to chatter. We're going to give it a label. Again, apologize for the misspellings. And then here I can define what my message is. And I'm going to do something a little bit kind of sort of not the right or best way to do it. But for sake of demonstration and speed, I'm going to go ahead and just paste my message right into that box. The better approach is to create what's called a resource. A resource is something that you can use throughout your flow. That would have been a smarter way to do this. If you're interested in why, I have another series called Fundamentally Flow that really breaks some of that stuff down a little bit better. So that I'm cheating today. Don't do what I just did. Actually create a constant or a resource that would hold that message for you would be a smarter approach. Now, the target name and ID, you might think, well, what is that? That sounds a little bit foreign to me. Well, it might just be because in Process Builder kind of took care of the fact that it knew the record we were working with, and it automatically associated the actions to that record. In Flow, because all of these elements can work in all of the different types of flow, there may not be a dollar record in all of your flows. You might have to connect this record or this chatter post to a different record. And so Flow is just simply asking or giving us the ability to say, what record do you want this chatter post associated with? Well, in our case, we know dollar record's our friend, and I'm simply going to go down and select, I want it to be connected to dollar record, and I want it to be connected to its ID. So I need to find dollar record ID. There it is. And so now this chatter post will be associated to my record. Now, I don't need to do anything with these other options. If I wanted to, I could simply enable those and it opens up fields for me to do different things. I'm simply going to go with a simple message connecting it to the right record. Click done, and there's my chatter action now. Back over to Process Builder, I need to send an email alert. That's my next option. And you'll notice that this email alert goes to the old workflow rule email alerts, and it's called account unsatisfied manager, blah, blah, blah at the end of it. So back over to Process Builder, I'm going to add that action. So click on the add button there, and I'm looking in here, and whoa, they've got send email alert right there at the top for me. It's like it knew. I'm not sure how, but it knew that I needed to send an email alert. And it brings me, interestingly enough, back into the Actions tab. And I'm going to simply click now into that action, and look at that. My email alert shows up automatically there for me. Now, this is a really simple org, so there's not very many email alerts. There's only this one. If you had in your org, you probably have a lot of email alerts. All of your email alerts would simply show up here, and you could select the one that you need. We're going to give it a label, email manager. And here again, it wants us to say, what record do you want to associate this to? So back to dollar record, record ID. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, let's do that right. Dollar record. Let's try that again. Let's just start over. Dollar record. And record ID. Let's try that ID. Account ID. That's where I bet I did that wrong over on the other one too. I'm going to go back and check that because I bet I connected to master on the other one. that we just did. So that's it. That's all you have to do for your email alert. You choose the action, find your email alert, give it a name, tell it the record you want it tied to, and it's there. So let me go back. Let's edit this post. I'm going to go into the chatter post, edit that. And yeah, I did. You can see where I put that in as master record ID. Let me fix that. Otherwise, we would be a little lost when we go to testing this thing. So dollar record account ID. Let's get the right one. There we go. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and save this flow because it's starting to get big enough that I don't want to lose what I've done. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. This is the after flow and it's associated to an account. So I'm going to simply call it account. And then I'm going to put a pipe in there. And this is going to be a record triggered flow after. And I think that's probably sufficient for what we need to do here today. So record trigger flow, it's an after flow and it's on the account object. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now let's go back to process builder. At this point, we have CSTAT fully built out. We've got all of our options built. We've got one in the before, and then we've got the last two we built in the after trigger, or the actions and related. Now let's go down to the address one. And here it's when they update all contact address checkbox equals true. And it had a name right here of update address. So back over to flow. If I want to update the contacts associated to the record, is this one going to be in the fast field update or the actions and related records? Actions and related records. Very good. I like your abbreviation there, Erwin. A&R. That's nice. that makes sense to me. Right. So let's go. This is our actions and related records. Now, I had my decision up here for the CSTAT rating, and it's going to process through one of these two paths, either the skip path or the path where it was true. And then when it's done, it comes back together and I can put in another element here. And I'm going to put my next decision right here inside this particular, the same flow. So I'm using one flow for the after for everything on the account. And I can use one flow on the before for everything on the account. So this decision is update all contacts. Give it its name. And this one I'm just going to say yes is to update the records. And then my default outcome, I'm just going to say nope. All right, so I got the names there. Now go in and let's define the criteria for the yes side. And I need $record, my friend. And I need that contact, update all contact address checkbox. I need that to be equal to true. And so you'll see that we've got some variables here. One is a true and one's a false. So I'm simply going to say when that is true, that's when I need to go down the yes path. Okay, so there's my next decision, yes and no. That's my diamond, true and false. So next item here, update the contacts is the name of it, and it's going to update the contacts associated to the account. And we are going to do an update. So let's go back here and click on our little plus sign. And we're going to simply look now for a update record. So here it is, update records. Update contacts is what we're going to give that a label of. Use the account that triggered the flow. Use the ID from the field values and records. You'll notice that I actually do have the ability now to select these on the after side. I did not have that capability on the before or on the fast field updates. So I am going to, let's see, choose to specify the conditions and identify the records and set the fields individually. I think that one is what I'm going to want to do because I don't want to trigger, I'm not updating a field on the account that triggered the flow at this point. I need to go get the contacts and run those. I don't have those contacts pre-pulled into where I've got an ID for those contacts. So this one doesn't work for me. So the only one that really does make any sense is to specify conditions to find those contact records and set the fields for them. So I need to go to the contacts object. And then I have this filter that I'm going to click into the field. These are my contact fields now. And I need the contacts where the account ID equals my $record account ID. So it's again, we go back to our friend $record, and I need the account ID here as well. Does that concept make sense? We're just associating those contacts that are related to our one account so that we know which fields we're going to update. And now in the list of fields here, I will see all of my contact fields, and then I'll be able to set a value to each one of those. So this will take just a second, but I'm going to go through and get all of my fields set. I think that should do it for my new. Let's do mailing country, mailing postal code, mailing state. I don't know why I keep typing Maine, mailing street. And I think that covers them. So I don't need that extra one. All right. So for the values, remember $record still my account. So we're going to go down to $record account. And I'm going to find my billing city, $record, click into that. This one is the country, billing country, $record, postal code, $record, state, $record, street. All right, hopefully I got everything in there right. That should get us an address that will copy from our account now down to our contact. Any questions on that element? That makes sense? All right. And now the last thing that we did on the update address is we went back to uncheck the checkbox on the account record. So in this case, am I going to use do I need to put this in the fast field update flow, or will this also go into the actions and related flow? This one is almost sort of a trick question. Okay, actions. Everybody's kind of agreeing to actions. Yeah, and this is kind of the little nuances. The 80% rule or 90% rule that says in our head, well, it's updating the record that triggered our flow. Why wouldn't it be in the fast field update? Well, the reason it's not in the fast field update is because if we put it there, by the time we get over to the after it will no longer be checked. And so it would never go and update our contact records the way that we want it to. So we can't change its value in the before side or in the fast field update because we need that value to still show, hey, go do this while you're in the after. So it does go to the after. And we are simply then going to do let me slide this up a little bit. In that same branch, we're going to do an update to the triggering record. All right, so update contact checkbox. We can call these whatever we want, just something that makes sense to us. It's updating the account record that triggered the flow. And it's going to be always, if we're in this, we know we need to do it because our decision already tells us that that's where we need to be. And we want to set that checkbox back to false. It was true. Now we're resetting it to false. And so let's go ahead and save our flow. And at that point, we have built out all of those components that we had in our process builder. We transitioned those to flow. Let's save our before flow, because I didn't do that. So this is also on the account. This is a record trigger flow before. You can use whatever naming convention there is convenient for you. That tends to be what I like to use. Now, are we ready to try it? See if it works? All right, so let's go back to Process Builder. Let's deactivate this process. Let's go into our flows. Let's activate those flows. That one is our after. This one's our before. Let's reset our record to make it back to a satisfied customer. Change the priority back to medium. And let's mess up our address one more time and save that record. Okay, so we're back to satisfied. It's medium. And let's look at our addresses to make sure that those updated. Yep, you can see that those are now wrong again. That's cool. So we kind of just tested the address by making that little change. But let's go ahead and test it to make sure all the way through that if we go to unsatisfied, that should update then our priority. It did move it to high. We look at our chatter post, there is the brand new chatter post as well, setting our CSAT rating. And I'm sure I have an email that went out. And if I check my addresses, actually, I didn't do that earlier. So let's fix the address one more time. Say update the address, hit save, and hopefully we will now have a corrected address on our contact record. So beautiful, it worked, I like it. And it did just what we were supposed to do. So fantastic. That is from Process Builder to Lightning Flow. I'm always glad when that part is over, because sometimes I've done this, I like doing it live, but there's always the risk. And so it worked. All right, so again, this whole series, all of the different actions that we would typically do in Process Builder, there's a side-by-side comparison on the blog site that will walk you through approval processes. There are there's just a bunch of different ones out there for you to look at if you choose to do so. Fundamentally Flow, that's the latest series that I'm working on. It really is kind of guiding us more toward understanding some of the core concepts of flow, because flow is kind of, it feels a little bit like developer-y type things, and so there's some new concepts for a lot of us admins that fundamentally Flow tries to help address, and so that we understand that QR code, by the way, I have that on my other screen too, but that is my contact info. If you're interested in reaching out, you can certainly do that as well. Another resource for you is Andy Yutkin and we host a Salesforce Flow office hours. And we do that the second Friday of every month. It is something that you would need to register for, and that registration is down there at the bottom of the screen, flowofficehours.com. You bring your flow problem, and we will do our best to try to help you solve it. The only thing we ask is that if you share your screen, you de-identify things. So work out of a sandbox, something that we can publicly share or make visible. All of those sessions are recorded, so you want to kind of protect yourself and your company. But that's also a resource that's available for you. With that, I will take any questions that you have, try to help you as best I can. Feel free to unmute and ask, or feel free to use the chat box. Either way, I see, John, you've got a question there.
Yeah, we just had a big presentation last night, and Flow kind of crashed at the Salesforce end, it seems. So
sorry, I don't know if you're on mute, but I am not hearing you at all. Is it just me?
I think so, because I was able to hear him.
Let me make sure. Oh, it is me. Hang on. It's me. I've got my speaker going to the wrong spot. Try that again, John. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, we had a presentation last night. We're doing a class for in Salesforce here, and we noticed that Flow has been buggy on the DE for the last week or so. And we were I have two questions actually. One is the developer edition or the developer edition different core than what they have out in production?
It can be, yes. And the reason that it can be is because those developer sandboxes get updated faster than what your production does. So
Okay.
you're probably seeing a pre-release.
Yeah,
in
we
the sense.
were running through weird problems where our flow broke basically, and we had two different types of we were doing screen inputs and or screen flows, and we had
Yeah.
a situation where if we manually populated the pick list with static choices, it worked fine, but if it was drawing it from objects,
Oh,
it
yeah,
crapped out. So
okay,
it worked, then it didn't work, worked for a while, then for our
okay.
presentation it died.
Oh, nice. Always nice when it matters is when it stops working. Beautiful.
We're just, I was wondering if that was an issue with
I don't generally see that, but I do know that Salesforce had some hiccups last week as well. I had some customers that was having some different issues. I don't generally see that occurring, but yeah, last week was a little bit unique, I think, in that sense. Yeah.
and the other question I had is I'm building a flow, and we had two flows. One of them used a flow where we collected information, including an email address. Then we sent a confirmation email to them. That worked beautifully. But when we started a new flow and we were going to update an object related to the previous object, there's a master detail relationship. So the one that I call on, the one that I have update, when it updates, I wanted to say send an email to the parent object, from the parent
Oh,
object
yeah.
where the email address was, but it wasn't giving me an email option like before. And I was wondering if that was because the object directly didn't have an email address in it.
Were you using a email alert, or were you using the simple email form builder within Flow?
The only option it would give me, it gave me a very limited set of options. And one of the only options it gave me was I could do an action and choose an email alert from there. But it said that I would have to set up email alerts in the flow or the, what do you call it, the workflow area. So we didn't have to do that,
Yeah.
before, but it was a different object.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, I'd probably try to use the simple email alert, and I'm surprised that it didn't show up. But I noticed as we were going through this presentation, I didn't see simple email alert show up either in my flow.
Yeah.
But the simple email alert would allow you to go get the other person's email,
Right.
and you could associate that simple email form to the actual record. Because you can control the record ID. That's probably what I would have done. I don't know if that's a bug, because I just noticed that when we went through it here today too, that I didn't see my simple email alert anymore.
But I noticed the same thing. But one thing I was wondering was an email alert, it only gives you the option to send email to somebody in your contacts or accounts, correct? It doesn't actually allow you to send it to an arbitrary email address. So it has to be a Salesforce user in order to send them email, correct?
I don't think that is true.
Okay.
Let me.
But in your mind, that not having the simple email, that seems to be different than what you're used to.
It is, and I haven't gone through the release notes to see if they've made any adjustments or changes or a different way of getting to it. It's totally possible that there's something in the release notes that indicate that. I just haven't had a chance to read through them yet. So yeah, that would be my first stop. Yeah. It seems a little bit weird. I can't imagine that they got rid of it. My guess would be it's somewhere else.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Take a look at the release notes that are out there. I bet that's where we'll find the answer. Clay, go ahead with your question.
this might be a two-parter, but is there a way to save a flow or create a flow that grants people or gives people ability to do things that their field level security wouldn't let them, or because they don't have the proper like financial force license or something like that?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that could be done. Let me check a couple things here real quick so I don't lead you down the wrong path with my answer. I always sometimes have to stop and go in and find where some of these unique items are at, so I don't use them that often. But yes, it is doable. The one thought that comes to my mind with that would be you could certainly do it by using an invocable flow or invocable apex. That would allow you to control who the user is. It would run in system context, which would be at the system level. So some of those rules wouldn't apply there. So I'm looking at the record trigger flow and I don't see the option to do it here. Let me get to desktop screen. There you go. What you'll find when you're saving your flows is there's the advanced option here, and they hide some things underneath this area, which is kind of helpful, like that trigger order. You can control the order in which the triggers fire. That's hidden underneath there. I'm going to do this as a screen flow and see if that changes any of it. Yeah, how to run the flow right there. So on a screen flow, you can control it, but not on a record trigger flow. So I could run my screen flow in user or system context with sharing, system context without sharing. So I don't know if that helps you in your use case, but you could do it with a screen flow.
And system context would disregard
Does that help?
all that. Would system context disregard all that profile stuff?
Oh, I think I lost my sound again. Sorry. Let me go back. When I switch screens, it switches my audio. Sorry. So I missed your response, Clay. Sorry.
No problem. So system context would kind of like ignore all that profile permission set stuff.
Yes. System context would bypass that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question?
Back to Clay's question, actually. So there were two system contexts. So system context with sharing
Yeah.
would not override. System without sharing would override, correct? Or yeah.
Yeah. System context with sharing. What that means is it's going to still run at a system level, but it's going to run based off of that user's access to data. If you do it without sharing, then it's everything's wide open.
Wow, Terry, this was just an amazing experience. I mean, it just so I feel like I had little aha moments just by watching what we're doing with Process Builder and breaking it down like that. Some things that about flow that were still huge gaps for me kind of clicked in place. I don't think I could, I'd have to watch your video again to recreate it, but I feel I understand the logic now, which is huge. So
yeah. They really are a lot more similar than what they appear to be on the surface.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely ways to map that over directly.
Yeah.
I was wondering if everybody would mind like taking a photo. Except I only see you, Terry. I can't see the gallery.
Oh, let me stop sharing. There you go.
Awesome. Okay, okay.
You're gonna tell us when to smile?
Oh, hold on. Okay.
Okay.
Right. 1, 2, 3. Let me do one more in case people's eyes were closed. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hold on. I just lost you. Hold on. My screen.
Just kidding.
Okay, let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Got it.
Super.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. It's your Saturday, so I'm sure you all have other things to do, but really, really want to thank you all for showing up, and Terry for sharing your wisdom. It's so wonderful that people like you are really helping us to wrap our brains around flow, and really appreciate your YouTube channel, because I've watched a few of your things, and
Oh, good.
you're a great mentor and a teacher. You really break things down and explain them easily. So super thankful for your presence in the ecosystem.
Well, happy to do it. So if there's anything else that we can do to help, just reach out. Always happy to. I may not always have the answer, but if I do, I'll happily share it. So
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone, and have a wonderful Saturday, and aloha, Terry.
yes, thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.